addresses. We're now joined by George Birnbaum. I'm not sure if I've got your last name right. Former Chief of Staff to the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. Morning, Mr. George. What do you make of what Trump has done? Did you know about this, or you came to know only after the announcement?
No, I didn't know about it ahead of time. I think all indications were pointing to something like this. You know, I know that sensationalism is important in today's world of news. But what happened over the past 10 days and with the U.S. Bombing the 3 sites today is not the brink of World War III. It's actually preventing World War III. You know, Navika a minute ago was talking about the difference between Pakistan and India showing restraint compared to what's happening now. Well, there's a fundamental reason why Pakistan and India showed restraint. Both nations have nuclear weapons, and neither nation wants to go to a nuclear conflict. The whole purpose of what's been happening over the past 10 days was preventing a rogue fundamentalist regime from attaining nuclear weapons, and a regime that most logical people would assume would not hesitate to use those nuclear weapons, unlike India and Pakistan, who show responsibility and restraint. An Iranian fundamentalist regime would not show that same level of restraint. And that's why what happened over the past 10 days. And I do think that we're not on the brink of World War III, that Israel and the U.S. have actually worked very hard to prevent World War III.
Okay.
Well, that's your take. There's also a question mark that you must see at the end of the 3 words. But, you know, look, because you brought up India and Pakistan, I don't want to, you know, go it unchallenged. The fundamental difference, according to me, is very simply this. The hypocrisy of the United States of America, the leader of the free world, is out there for everyone to see. Israel stood with us when India struck Pakistan, the terror infrastructure in Pakistan. Israel has been unequivocal in its support to India, and we are grateful, and you know, we value that. But look, Mr. George, the trouble is that Americans have been having the Pakistani establishment in their lap. It is as rogue as Iran. In fact, Pakistan is more rogue with a checkered past.
Yes, listen, I certainly didn't want to get on TV and debate the Iranian-Pakistan conflict, which, you know, certainly is something that we all care about and concerned. And yes, you know, I agree. I think Prime Minister Modi has been an incredible leader for India. You know, I think there's a difference between being a leader and being elected a president, or just elected a president or prime minister. There are those that get elected and don't do something with it, and there are those that are elected that do something with it. And Prime Minister Modi has shown exceptional leadership when it comes to India itself, but also regarding the conflict with Pakistan. And I agree with you. You know, just like Qatar has infiltrated and influenced with money and its proxies, U.S. academic institutions, as well as the political institutions, you know, Pakistan acts in a similar way. And I am certainly cognizant of that, and I think it's something we have to call to attention. And I think we always have to make sure that, you know, our friends' best interests are always in mind and put first. Just like America came to the defense of Israel, and it's a strong alliance, I see India as a great friend of Israel, and who should be a great friend of the United States as well.
Right. But what now? Let's, you know, address the elephant in the room. Now that the bunker buster bombs have struck Iran, at least 3 nuclear sites have been hit. What do you expect Iran to do? Because the supreme leader Khamenei has said that, look, it's on now. There will be consequences.
Yeah. So the question, the answer to that question really depends on how much of Iran's capabilities were degraded over the past 10 days by the Israeli military. I think we can all agree that a significant amount of Iran's long-range ballistic missile capabilities have been eroded. Similarly, their short-range capabilities have been eroded. Not to mention, you know, the 2 greatest threats to this type of action were both the Iranian air defense systems as well as Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. One of the big fears has always been that if either Israel or the U.S. attacked Iran, that Hezbollah would unleash hundreds of thousands of short-range missiles on Israel. So not just the past 10 days, but the past several months, with both the changes in Syria, the elimination of the threat of Hezbollah on the southern border with Israel by Israel, and then the elimination over the past 10 days of Iranians' air defense systems have kind of laid the groundwork for America doing what it just did, but hopefully also degrading to a large degree the capabilities of what Iran might be able to do next. I think the biggest fear is not a large-scale military response by Iran. I think we have to be more cognizant and fearful of terrorism cells, sleeper cells that Iran has throughout the world.
Hybrid warfare, proxy war, as we've seen from the Pakistanis in India. But Mr. George, how would you address the regime change question that the Trump administration has, at least on 2 occasions in the last 48 to 72 hours, has said that, look, we are not aiming for regime change. What is Israel's view? How do you see this?
So Israel, of course, would love nothing more than to have a regime change, to eliminate the fundamentalist Islamic regime leadership to something more pragmatic, pluralistic. I don't think that Israel's military attacks the past 10 days have had the end goal of regime change. I think the end goal was very simple. The end goal was eliminating the nuclear capability of weaponization of Iran. If regime change comes, and I do believe that both Israel and America would like to see regime change, I think that would be welcomed by the Western world. Whether it happens or not, a large part is up to the Iranian people, whether they rise up and say enough is enough. Hopefully, a lot of the eroding of Iran's military capability and its leadership at the military level within Iran will give the Iranian people the opportunity to stand up, rise up, and bring about that change that I think we would all welcome.
Okay, Pranesh, I just want to ask Mr. George, we want to ask you on the significance of the United States hitting these nuclear sites, as Israel has time and again said that the nuclear program of Iran is an existential threat for Israel. But what is going to be the end goal, the end game here? Because there are other nuclear sites within Iran that are still active. So what is going to be the end of this?
So the end game, as I mentioned, was really the elimination of Iran to be able to enrich enough uranium to weaponize it. They were at about 60%. You need about 90% enriched uranium to be able to have a nuclear weapon. And the jump from 60 to 90 is actually something that happens quite rapidly. So the end game was really to eliminate that threat, to eliminate the Iranians from being able to take that next quick step to have enough enriched uranium to weaponize it and potentially use it. That was the end game. I hope that after tonight's actions by the U.S. military using those bunker buster bombs, that threat has been eliminated. The president said that it has been. I personally believe it may take a few days, if not weeks, to verify the damage to those sites and ensure that the damage is strong enough and significant enough that threat was eliminated. And quite frankly, bring Iran to the negotiating table and say, okay, we are giving up this nuclear desire, and we are looking for a different option.
Now, our consulting editor, Srinjoy Chaudhary, is also listening to you intently. He has a question for you.
So, first of all, you spoke about verification. Now, in all these days of fighting, how much damage did Israel inflict on Iran's nuclear facilities and other military facilities? Secondly, how successful? The Americans have said it's very successful. We'll have to look at satellite photographs and other things over the next 2-3 days. How successful have the American attacks been? And thirdly, what military potential and nuclear enrichment potential does Iran still have?
So I think it'll be hard to answer your last question until we answer the second question, which is an assessment of the damage that was done. And I also don't think that satellite review will be enough. I think we're actually going to have human intelligence on the ground to really understand how significant the damage, especially to Fordo, which is buried deep underground, how much damage is actually done. A lot of the assessments prior to tonight's attack said that it would take 2 of the bunker-busting bombs that were launched by B-2 bombers to really do the correct amount of damage to Fordo. According to the reports that have been out, it's been 5 or 6 that the Americans used. That would be a significant amount of bunker busters to use on one location. And if that is the case, my sense is that the verification and inspection will come back as having said that that site was, if not completely destroyed, destroyed beyond repair. Regarding your first question, Israel had done significant damage to the 3 main nuclear sites, the centrifuge sites and the enrichment sites. But a lot of the focus of the Israeli attacks had been taking out air defense systems, part of which I think was to allow what happened tonight to happen without threat to U.S. warplanes, but also to take out the missile and rocket capabilities that Iran has to retaliate with towards Israel and perhaps other assets that are American assets in the Middle East. A lot of the reports say that 50 to 60% of the missile launchers of Iran have been taken out. It could be more, could be a little less. But both when the president says there are still targets that are out there that should Iran respond, America can target, as well as the fact that I firmly believe that the Israeli Air Force and Israeli military are still flying over Iran as we speak, looking for more launchers and looking for more missiles. They're continually degrading the capability of Iran to respond at a military level.
Let me ask you a more fundamental question so that people who are watching our broadcast actually get a sense of what's happening, what's on the cards lined up, etc., etc. Mr. George, you see, now that US has officially entered the war, and I remember the day one when the Secretary of State, Mr. Rubio, issued a statement and said that US has nothing to do with the strike, that Israel told us and that we were taken in confidence, but we have nothing to do. Now, all that pretense has gone, and many people even then were of the opinion that this is only deception, that Israel is actually doing this with the help of the Americans. Now that, you have 2 entities taking on Iran, the United States and Israel, is there some, understanding, bifurcation, for lack of a better word? What will US do? What will the Israelis do?
I think a lot will depend on what Iran does and how Iran responds. The president's message just an hour ago was quite firm and actually quite stark difference to previous statements that he has made and other members of his administration. The message was basically don't do anything or else. So we'll see how seriously Iran takes that threat. So the next steps in terms of what the U.S. does will largely depend on the next steps of what Iran does. As I mentioned a moment ago, I do believe that Israel will continue to fly over the skies of Iran, continue to make sure that any threats, whether they be missile launchers, missile facilities, drone launches, are eliminated. I think that continues for a while. But in terms of the U.S.'s response, a lot will depend. In fact, I think most of it will depend on what Iran does next.
Mr. George, I beg your indulgence, just stay with us. Our colleague Pratibha has a map with her. She'll point out the 3 locations which were struck. And then I want you to add more details about, what you think is the strategic importance of the 3 facilities hit by the bunker busters.
So here's what we know. Let's break it down for you and get the details for